President Obama continuing his farewell European tour. In his final visit to Germany today, the president will meet with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, one of the closest foreign counterparts of the president. Joining me right now, retired four-star general, former U.S. Army Chief of Staff, and Fox News military analyst, General Jack Keane. General, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much for joining us. So, Merkel and Obama have enjoyed a close relationship over the years. Do you think the relationship continues under a Trump presidency?
I think, by and large, President-elect Trump, when he becomes president of the United States, will have a good relationship with the European leaders. Listen, the relationship with the United States of America, the Transatlantic Alliance, is vital to stability and global security. Every European leader knows that. President Trump will have different views than President Obama had when it comes to foreign policy and national security. And frankly, in my judgment, as we have said here before, I cannot point to a place in the world that has improved as a result of President Obama's leadership in global security and stability. So I think under President-elect Trump, the opportunity to improve stability and security in the world is significant.
No, you're right. I mean, you look at some of the deals that have gone on that have been highly criticized, like the Iran deal. What do you think the Trump administration should be doing once it's in place with the Iran deal?
Well, I think the number one thing with the Iranians has always been this, and that is that their strategic objective is to dominate the Middle East by spreading the Islamic Revolution. They have said that for 35 years, and they make that statement every single year. The means to achieve that have always been two. One, drive the United States out of the region and eventually destroy the state of Israel. That is their policy. So what we should do is push back on that policy. And you see that policy being executed as we speak today. They are aligned with Lebanon, Hamas. Syria is a client state. Iraq is closer to being a client state. Yemen now is a client state with the Houthis throwing the government out. They are attempting to expand. As they're expanding and provoking the United States, we should push back. We should have sanctions. When we push back on them, particularly with financial and economic sanctions, I believe the Iranians will forfeit the deal.
Yeah.
And they have said that to us many times. If you're going to impose sanctions on us after we've made the nuclear deal, we will forfeit the deal. I don't think we'd have to repeal it or cancel it. I think they will do it if we do what we should do in the Middle East, and that is recognize that Iran, their interests are at the expense of U.S. national security and regional security, and act accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really fascinating what's going on, particularly the Russia angle, and how Russia has inserted itself. Now, President-elect Donald Trump has support from many leaders around the world. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, he actually spoke about the Trump administration yesterday, and I got to get your take on this. Listen to this, what we heard from Assad.
If he's going to fight the terrorists, of course, we're going to be ally, natural ally in that regard, with the Russians, with the Iranians, with many other countries who wanted to defeat the terrorists.
I don't know what to say about that, General. What do you think?
Well, he's killed 500,000 of his own citizens.
Exactly.
And he's displaced 11 million people out of a country of only 22 million people. He and the Russians, right now as we speak, are conducting a bombing campaign in Aleppo. It's in violation of international sanctions and accords. It's an absolute criminal act because they're targeting civilians that have nothing to do with the conflict. They intend to annihilate those civilians in eastern Aleppo, and he has been doing this for 5 years.
Just yesterday, we saw massive bombing in Aleppo of hospitals, of schools. He says he's trying to kill the terrorists. Then why are you bombing a school and a hospital?
He has always made war on the population to break the will of the people who are supporting the opposition forces, and his intent has always been that. And that's why the kind of bombings that they do, the systematic starvation programs that they have a campaign to destroy hospitals, 70% of the hospitals. They destroy ambulances. This is all about genocide and killing people, sadly to say.
So how is the Trump administration going to get around this? I mean, look, Trump is working to fill his cabinet. He's expected to meet with a handful of people today. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, Navy Admiral Mike Rogers. They could focus on a potential job, or maybe they're just there for advice. What would you say about the Russia-Syria situation right now to these people who may very well end up being in the cabinet?
Well, Syria is a huge problem, to be sure, and I would have thought by now we would have taken some action that would actually shift the regime to force some kind of political solution. The entire national security team of President Obama in the summer of 2012, this is Petraeus, Clinton, Panetta, and Dempsey, all advocated robustly arming the Syrian moderates to force a political solution because the momentum would shift against the regime. Obama said no. The chemical line the very next year in 2013 is violated, the use of chemical weapons. That same national security team, absent Clinton, enter Kerry, recommends military action against Assad's air power to take it down. Obama says no, makes a deal with the Russians to pull out the chemical weapons. The issue was never just the chemical weapons. The issue was, what can we do to change the momentum against the regime to stop the killing?
Right, right.
And he missed the whole point.
Well, it's really a head-scratcher why the president does and says what he does. Well, I mean, why would he say no?
Because he didn't want to do anything to rattle the Iranian nuclear deal that was taking place. It was his seminal foreign policy achievement. It will blow up in his face in terms of his legacy because it's not going to last. And he sacrificed so much in the Middle East to achieve that end, sacrificed the relationship with the Sunni Arab states, our allies in the region, sacrificed the relationship with Israel, all to achieve this nuclear deal, who is our strategic opponent in the region.
All right, so what do you think our first priority should be from a foreign policy perspective?
One, stability and security in the Middle East, radical Islamists, Syria to be sure. Two, how do we deal with the revisionist countries, Russia, Iran, China, all seeking some form of regional domination and all having some form of success at that. They are taking advantage, I believe, of a weak American leadership. They're emboldened by that, and our allies are terrified of what is taking place.
Wow, really incredible moment in time. General, really great to have your insights on
Good talking to you, Mike.
Thanks so much. General Jack Keane joining us there.